Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Phil's Recap and Review. This is for The Sopranos, Season 2, Episode 9. We're going to be doing a review commentary. And if you haven't watched one of our review commentaries, basically what we're doing is we're going to watch the episode live and treat it like a commentary, like an old school DVD or Blu-ray documentary kind of thing, where we just talk about what we're seeing in the episode. We both have already watched this episode within the last couple of days, so we're going to kind of probably be talking over it. So if you've never seen this episode, I don't necessarily recommend watching this for the very first time with us, because we'll probably be talking about what happened in the past in The Sopranos, what's going to happen in the future. There will be a lot of spoilers for Sopranos stuff yet to come, so just a little pre-warning at the beginning here. If you haven't watched The Sopranos and you're just tuning in to listen to us bullshit and don't want to be spoiled for things to come later in the season or later in future seasons, I wouldn't listen to this or watch this commentary right now. But we are going to be doing that and talking about the episode, talking about how this affects the whole storyline and all the stuff about The Sopranos moving forward. And also, we're not alone right now. We'll have a few people popping their heads in and out. We got Jasmine Breaking Bad. We got Linda R. We've got the live motherfucking chat coming on in here tonight to talk about this episode with us. Please share your thoughts in the comments section if you're watching this later, or if you're joining us live, pop on in the live motherfucking chat. The episode that we'll be watching tonight, as I mentioned, is Season 2, Episode 9, From Where to Eternity. As I'm setting this up, if people want to watch along with us, check out that episode on HBO. I believe it's also on Amazon or from other pirated fashion. At the point where we're going to be starting the episode, because my co-host, who I'm going to introduce here in a second, had a little bit of computer glitch. So we're starting at 45 seconds. It's 45 seconds in the intro at the line. If you're doing closed captions, I believe that you're feeling fine is the line. So if anyone wants to join us live with us, let's do that. Oh, we've got a couple people in the live chat. Shadow, great to see you. It's been a long time. It's great to see you in the live motherfucking chat, and great to talk to you tonight. And James B. Coogan, great to see you as well. But I am not alone tonight.
Hold on, I just left.
I know. Go away.
I'll close the door. Hold on.
I'll give you a long intro.
All right.
But I've been doing these. We've been doing these Sopranos casts. I know I haven't been on here that much in the last couple of months as I've been getting situated to a new location. But the Sopranos casts are something that we did a long time ago, when I first started doing the channel and started doing recaps. My friend Matt and I was trying to get an excuse to get one of my oldest friends, Matt, on here, and we settled on doing Sopranos stuff. So we did it, and I was looking back, Matt. The last episode that we did of this, which was another commentary cast. Occasionally we'll do a podcast where we'll just discuss the episode. Sometimes we'll do a commentary cast.
That was our first ones, the first few that we ever did. But that's probably 3 or 4 years ago now. We did.
Right. Oh, that was. Oh, I'm sorry, my microphone's going weird. That was 3 or 4 years ago. Oh, excuse me. Is my audio get all weird for a second?
Yep. Now we can't even hear you. Can you guys hear me? If anyone's in the chat, I'm assuming you can, but all right. Still can't hear you though.
Matt?
Nope.
Do some talking.
There we go. Now we can hear you. No, now we can't hear you anymore. It's all right.
Matt, do some talking while I'm figuring it out.
Okay. Oh, that's what you were telling me to do. I got you. So Phil and I started doing this probably 3 or 4 years ago. I had claimed at the time, I had just watched Breaking Bad, and I told him that I believed that this was still. Yep, that was good.
Okay.
This was the superior show. So the first few, we just started watching it. I was in my basement, and like he said, podcast hour, just sort of talking about it. Then at one point, once he moved or something, we decided to just sit together and watch them and sort of talk through them as we went through some of the episodes. This has still been, it's probably 2 or 3 years ago. I think since the last time Phil and I have done this, he has moved twice. I have now moved to the state of Vermont. We used to live close enough that we could sit and sort of do this together. And it's been probably 2 years, Phil. I have no idea when the last time we did this.
Yes, and what I'm doing is I'm plugging in a separate microphone because it seems like my fucking shit's fucking up.
Yeah, that one's still no good. So I think for this one, we're gonna do what we did the last time, except for in separate places. We'll just try to watch this together. Of course, mine will start glitching as soon as we hit play, and it'll be I'll be playing catch up with you guys. one of the things that's happened is, and we've heard this, sort of in like the press and stuff, is that over the course of COVID, a whole new generation of people who had never seen this show the first time,
Yeah.
sort of when they ran out of stuff to do, hopped in and started watching this again. And in conjunction of that, is it Christopher and Bobby Bacala that are doing a podcast as well about this?
Yes, they did, and I set up. I think there's either something wrong with my microphone or my microphone cord. So, but I set up.
That one sounds fine now.
Yeah, I set up a second microphone right now. It feels a little, whoa. No, sorry about that, everybody. It feels a little awkward. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We're back finally for a Sopranos cast, and I'm marred with like 1,000 technical difficulties already. But Matt, what I was about to say before I started babbling was that the last time we did any Sopranos thing, the last time we ever did it was 926 days ago. The last Sopranos.
That's 926 days ago.
926 days ago. It was
early 2018, probably.
April 2018. April 16th, 2018 was episodes. I believe we did. I'd have to look back, but I think it was 6, 7, and 8. Yep. Oh no, it's not. Is it? I'm sorry. I keep thinking my microphone's breaking again.
No, it got a little weird for a second.
It did. I don't think there's I think it's my my whole entire board here. I don't think it's I think we might be in trouble, Matt. Oh no.
I guess I'll have to do it by myself.
Yeah,
it'll be like when when Wayne like leaves and Garth it's on him and that's it in the room.
Yeah,
and freaks out.
keep talking for a bit, Matt. Keep talking.
No, you're good. We can hear you.
Oh no, you gotta take over the fun.
No, you're totally good. I got nothing. I've never watched Game of Thrones, so I'm useless. So
it doesn't matter. Just for a second, I need to adjust something. Give me a second.
All right. You really are leaving me to sit here and talk. Okay. And so I now live in Vermont. Phil and I have known each other. For those of you who have this is the first time you're seeing me, Phil and I have known each other for, it's embarrassing that we can say this, like 32, 33 years. Like 5th grade, I first moved to the town that Phil lived in.
It's been way too fucking long, Matt. We've known each other way too long. I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going wrong here, everybody. Sorry for the delay at the beginning.
Yeah, instead you just got to listen to me ramble about God knows what, because this is...
But that's what's amazing about this. Matt's like, go easy on me. I'm a little out of practice. I got to figure out what to do here at the beginning. I'm like, don't worry. You'll melt right into it.
We'll just throw you in under the bus right away.
I'm just throwing you under the bus right the fuck away.
Nice.
But no, I'm back now. I don't know how long this is going to work for, but we'll see. And let's start. Let's get into the live motherfucking chat right here. Oh, we got Shadow, we got Midori finally catching a live stream. Richie, people, there's some great sushi in Boca. We did talk, and I believe there was one episode that we did that was just me when briefly it looked like we couldn't coordinate to do it. And then I did one singular episode that I watched back because I was looking back to try to figure out where we were. So it's been a long time. It's been
2.5 years.
Yeah, I know you're the math guy, but it's been
not anymore. I'm out of that.
It's 2.537 years, 926 days. So since we've done a Sopranos cast, since we've talked about the Sopranos. Oh, I missed you as well, and I'm glad this sounds okay right now. I apologize in the future right now if the technical difficulties rise up again. I'm not exactly sure what happened. It sounded like a power surge kind of sound of some sort, but we'll see. Sounded good for now. So right now, everyone, we're going to get started. Matt's already probably ready to run away now. I already made him talk more than he was hoping to talk for this entire time. But yeah, what you were saying, Matt.
I do want to just say this too, in preparation for this, because Phil and I always, throughout the like 6 or 7 years that we've done a grand total of like 18 episodes probably, we talk about doing it all the time. We plan on doing it all the time. Like this, even us doing this one has been on the talk since I moved to Vermont, which was last July, and that hasn't happened.
Yeah, I was going to say that. We were talking about getting back at doing this around the time that you moved. And then I kind of went through, a big move and a big change. So it definitely, that got paused. And then we've been talking about it for the last couple of months as well, just with me since I've moved for a chance to
Right.
catch up. And then at first it started like, hey, let's catch up and talk sometime. And then it turned into, let's not have any precursor of talking. If we're going to talk, if we're going to connect over
just do it on air.
Yeah, let's just do it on air. We don't really actually want to have a conversation. We got JSM down in the live chat. It's great to see all of our friends and see some folks pop on in there tonight. We're going to start doing this, and we say this a lot, but now that we've done this the first time, it's going to be a lot easier. All the technical difficulties are getting worked out. So we're going to try to do this, and this is what I'm saying, once a month. We're going to try to...
No, maybe more than that. It might be twice a month.
Okay, maybe twice. But I'm going to say at least we're going to promise to do this. And even if it's horrible and you're like, yeah, guys, never do that again, we're still going to do it. Like,
we're going to do it because Phil and I haven't spoken to each other, like, besides text in over a year. So, like, this will be it for us, if nothing else.
In fact, the first things I'm really saying to you are, Matt, you got to talk. Sorry, technical difficulties. You need to talk. So, as I said, tonight's episode is Season 2, Episode 9, From Where to Eternity of The Sopranos. And when we're watching one of these, we'll try to give you guys the scene of what's going on. We're going to over-talk, essentially, so you don't necessarily have to watch live. And also, Matt, I did want to mention one other thing here at the beginning. It's also, there's a couple of occasional people out there, and one of them I'm going to mention right now, Phyllis, who is a newer listener and a newer person that recently, during the quarantine and everything, found the channel and found the Sopranos podcasts and live streams. And funny enough, that was the first thing that brought her to the channel and to the podcast. And she started listening to all of those, thinking that was the regular show. You know, that you and I talking...
Me stumbling for the first 3 times.
Right. Was the regular show. And then from there afterwards, listen to stuff with Joe and, and everyone else that joined, just David and all the live motherfucking chat and all the friends. Now, Phyllis might pop in here tonight, but my point is she kind of encouraged me through, when's the next episode? Because she didn't really notice the dates or anything of how long ago it has been. There's been 900 days. So then that was a good excuse to message Matt to make it seem like there is 1 or 2 people that actually watch this, so...
Let's be honest, like, COVID helps too. Like, there's not much else to do. It's like, all right, well, yeah, we can do this again. And I feel I have to tell you, for the last few months, when I was like, yeah, you know what, Phil and I are definitely gonna do this. So I started, like, you know how videos show up on Facebook and you can watch one of them while you're like scrolling through your phone. So once you watch a couple of them, Facebook is so invasive into your life, it starts putting more and more on there.
It listens to you talk, yes.
So all I've had is Sopranos, like, clips, like, hey, the best of, like, Richie Aprile for the last 3 months. So my wife is like, dude, you got to stop watching it, because I'm going around just quoting it and talking in that voice, like all different Sopranos voices. So I'm like all fired up for this right now.
I got the jacket.
Yeah.
The jacket. And this is an interesting point to put us back where we were before we start this episode with this huge intro here, this whole huge preamble before we initially started. Was waiting for the Sopranos back in the throne. Well, Midori says, I was waiting for the Sopranos cast back in the Game of Thrones days. A lot of people were. It was sort of like a different alternative to some of the more Walking Dead, Game of Thrones stuff that we were doing back then. So it's good to be back at it. And Matt and I, at one point in time, came out here or even just to ourselves, made a declaration that we were going to do every single episode of The Sopranos. And as Matt mentioned at the beginning here too, in this break, while we waited 926 days, 2 guys from the actual Sopranos have come into the podcasting world and have lapped us. They're in season 3 right now.
Are they really?
Yes.
Son of a bitch.
They started at the beginning of the quarantine, and they're already in season 3.
I mean, they have more, they have nothing else to do, I guess.
I guess not. But I do recommend that podcast if you're a fan of The Sopranos. I mean, I recommend it definitely over, us two dorks talking about it right now. But
doing one episode every 4 months.
Yeah, I would listen to Christopher and Bobby Bacala. They got a good thing. It's a little bit more, if you're looking for some behind the scenes stories. They have some good interviews with some cast members. They had pretty much most of the living cast members on, and different directors and stuff. And I did watch the podcast for this episode particularly to get a couple of things. one interesting thing about this particular episode is this is the first episode written by Michael Imperioli, Christopher Moltisanti. He wrote
this one is?
Yeah, he wrote 4 episodes throughout the series. This is the first.
He wrote one of the worst ones ever made. We don't need to talk about that right now.
Oh, we'll get to it though. But this is his first episode he wrote. And if people are curious what happened before leading into this episode, this is with those Mac Bevilacqua and what was I forget the other.
I don't know. They'll say his name in here though.
Yeah, they say his name a few times.
The Wabistics guys.
Yes, they killed. They attempted to kill Christopher to try to
impress Richie
to get further down the line in that, and that was.
And they were just 2 wannabes, like who. Christopher was like up and coming at that point. He was Tony's like nephew, so Christopher started thinking he was a little bit better than everyone else around him, and they thought their only way for them to make it would be to like take him out of the picture somehow. And at the time, there was talk about Richie possibly, right? At this point, Richie may be trying to make a move on Tony, and that they could be in good with Richie's graces. So
I'm blanking just because I'm watching this out of context of watching anything before it or after it yet. I can't remember if this is before the time period where Richie and Junior somewhat try to hatch a plan, and Richie can't sell it. He can't freaking sell it. You know, where Junior starts out, he's like he's 5'2", but he walks like a king. You know, and then when he comes back, I think that's later in the season.
And then he goes to Tony at some point with like, I know Richie, I set him up, like total bullshit.
I believe that's the next episode, but we're jumping ahead a little bit. But this episode is one of, honestly, up until this point, watching kind of Sopranos all along. Olivia's not in this episode, but it's a really good episode. It's a very big Paulie Walnuts episode. It's probably, if not before this, I'm trying to think because we're not watching week to week at this point. Maybe the best Paulie episode so far.
Not the best Paulie one overall, but so far possibly.
So far, possibly the best Paulie episode. He has an amazing kind of situation set up in this episode that we're gonna watch, and also there's a lot of themes going on in this episode, and there's a lot of hypocrisy, and there's a lot of showing. I think this is the start of something David Chase wants to do. He realized after season 1 and half of season 2 that people really love these characters and like them too, and are sort of looking past what kind of people they really are. And this episode sets up a lot of those hypocrisy kind of things with Carmela and how religious she is, and then in the same breath turning to Tony like, "Have you killed the kid that shot Christopher yet?" And Tony kind of having the atheist perspective through the whole thing, thinking it's all bullshit, and Paulie having this like warped perspective of just being raped by the church and having to pay so much money for so long, and thinking that he was getting some sort of protection in his whole philosophy. And then at the same time,
he was paying them off for protection, like what people do to him. Yeah,
exactly. He was paying them off. And yes, Richie in the live chat, who has an amazing jacket. The jacket, Richie, the jacket. In the live chat just said Christopher just got made. Yes, it was
right. Yeah, he's right before this.
Right. Thank you, Richie. Christopher just got made. He was realizing how hard that was and how it wasn't just easy peasy lemon breezy. That he's the bottom man in the totem pole. And to go to what Matt was saying, I think because of that, he was throwing a little bit more onto these 2 shit bums, and that we almost, and again to go further a little bit for a second, these guys are almost proto Jackie Jr. Like rewatching it and having watched season 3 episodes more recently, they kind of remind me of that same kind of douchebag as Jackie Jr.
But they don't have the name of Priel, and that's the big difference. They have to do. At the end of the day, if Jackie, Jr. wasn't the jerk off that he was, he would have been made and done whatever he want because he was Jackie's kid.
It's true.
These guys, I think, are just nobodies trying to, trying to make a name for themselves.
Absolutely.
But,
so
all right, let's do this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say let's get into this episode. We're at 45 seconds. Matt, do you put your finger on the OK button?
As soon as we do this, by the way, mine's gonna start glitching because it was doing it before, and I'm gonna be off immediately. But I'll do my best to.
We'll try.
We're
gonna try to do this, and I know the audio is gonna get this because you're gonna hear some audio in my end probably. Matt's doing this the more professional way, like by actually watching it on his computer, so he doesn't.
Totally professional, yeah.
But this time, anyways. Okay, so let's do the lethal weapon thing. We're not doing 1, 2, 3. Not on 3. Actually, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
You can't do that. So is it on 3 then?
Yes, it's on 3. 1,
so 1, 2,
press.
3.
Yes. 1, 2, press. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, press. Okay, are you going?
I'm going. And it glitched a little bit, but I'm going to be close enough with you.
Okay, we're close enough here. So we're starting the episode right now, and right away, like where we're at this intro, I think even to this day, I don't know how many newer shows you watch, like the intro is so important, and I think this show is one of the, as it's the foundation of so much of modern television, of these like long form dramatic shows that are really popular right now. The long extended intros, almost as like back in the old days of movies where you'd have these big intros. It's like this era of television is synonymous with this. Every Netflix series, big Netflix series are in, they all have these awesome intros, and it all came from this.
And when I see the HBO thing, every time I still think I wait for this song for it to go into this song.
So speaking of song, this Otis Redding song plays, I want to say it's 3, maybe
at least 3.
At least 3, maybe 4 times in the episode. Oh, Adriana, Christopher. She's out of a show of awesome actors and actresses. She, I think, kind of is underrated. And right away, you see the symbolism right there, where they have the picture of the bald guy, or when was that, the Pope? They have the picture of the Pope to try to show the symbolism of religion. Sometimes The Sopranos can hit you over the head with the symbolism, whether it be in dreams or a lot of things. And right there, that's one of those big slap across the face. But what I was saying is Dre D'Amato, or I think is her name, is an underrated actress. She's great playing this character, and
it's also important because there are a lot of really weak performances in this show of people who aren't great actors. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
But the same way that you need Edie Falco to be as good of an actress as Tony Soprano is, Christopher, who is also maybe the third best actor in this whole show, you need someone almost as strong as him to do that other side, which is why it's important she's like that.
Perfect timing to say that when you have Syl and his wife,
his real wife in real life,
who I love him, but he's not a great actor.
No.
And if people are wondering who this woman is that's hugging Syl and saying please kill him, and Syl's like, I'll do the best I can, like he's a doctor, like we'll do the best we can to find him and kill him. That is Christopher's mother for the episode. This is the only time that actress ever played Christopher's mother. Every other time it was played by this other actress that is far more recognizable in the role of Christopher's mother. That was the only time another actress played her. And then we get this section right here, which they were talking about this a little bit on the in the Talking Sopranos podcast. This is one of those scenes that is so relatable. Even if this is the mafia and a bunch of other people, this scene right here, Matt, we've all been here. Not necessarily from someone being shot, but some people, yes, that too. We've all been in a waiting room here where you have all these character types in these moments. And, the family members like Janice that just show up at the, oh my God, what's going on this time?
Of all the people you don't want to see at this moment, it's Janice Soprano.
Fucking Janice. Like, they're all looking at Richie right there with that look on their face. I don't know if you've seen the same thing I have. They're all giving the stink eye right now. That should be the fucking Janice. She's the worst.
Right.
Okay, so Richie, who is your...
right now, just so you know, on my TV, they're walking outside right now.
Yeah,
they're already out there.
Me too. They're already out there. I think I'm like a second ahead of you.
Yeah.
So, who is your favorite of... Now we're seeing Richie. They're setting up the scene for the episode that they're looking for Matt Bevilacqua. And
Richie never tells him, hey, Matt Bevilacqua came to me. I don't think he does, at least.
No, he doesn't, but like he makes sure that like when it comes to that later in the episode, they make sure that Tony knows that we know that Tony knows that he wasn't really a part of this, that he didn't order this or want them to do this. Who's your favorite of the three main Tony adversaries?
My favorite, I think the best actual adversary is Richie. So I read recently when they were casting that role, Ed O'Neill went out for it, like, you know, Al Bundy, and a few other people tried out for that role because they wanted someone in the beginning to go toe to toe with Tony. And the thing was, if they could get someone like Tony's size almost, because it's hard to, so like Ed O'Neill's a really big guy in real life. None of them could just hang with him though, because Tony's such an incredible, you know, his presence is just such a big deal. So they went the total opposite direction and got tiny Richie Aprile.
And if we use Married with Children as logic for his, you know, he was great in high school football too. He had the makings of a varsity athlete, Matt.
Right.
So Carmela, this is, again, there's a lot of episodes that she's excellent in, but this is one of those swarmy, you just live to hate Carmela kind of episodes. But
I'm a huge Carmela apologist, so I don't listen to any of this bullshit he says. Right?
What do we have to get into this stuff again? That of my huge crush on Edie Falco and the character of Carmela, but she is as good of an actor. Like you said it earlier, she, as great as Gandolfini is, she matches.
He doesn't work without someone as good as her on the other side of him.
And I know originally, and a lot of people know this isn't false information, and I heard it confirmed. Hey, Killmonger. I heard it confirmed on the Talking Sopranos podcast when they had Lorraine Bracco on. But Lorraine Bracco originally was brought in to be Carmela.
Right. And they recruited her for it.
And she said, I don't want to play the same kind of character as Goodfellas. And they let her go Melfi. And I think it was the smartest thing.
I don't think she would have done this job that Edie Falco does. Like, I don't know anyone that could do what Edie Falco does in this job. In this role.
I love this whole thing. Okay, so we've kind of missed past this. Someone told her that this is the best line. Wait. I had her tested for AIDS. Now, like, Carmela presses Tony on, what if you get your Gumar pregnant? He's like, I don't see her anymore. I didn't see this, I didn't see that. And then his response, she goes in this big rant about, you know, you're going to ruin your family. You're going to
danger to the family. I had her tested for AIDS.
And I had her tested for AIDS. That's his response. In the next couple of episodes, we see more, and then the song kicks in again. We see more and more how despicable, horrible of a person Tony Soprano is. But Carmela, back to Carmela, like Edie Falco, again, makes this show as much as Gandolfini does. And I think them and Christopher, I think everyone else in some ways is, I'm not going to say, I think a lot of people could have played these parts, but it was the perfect mix. But I think those are the three pillars of which this show kind of leans on.
Yeah.
Did you hear? I also heard on the Talking Sopranos podcast as we're seeing Adriana run in to see Christopher coding, and we can see all this through Pussy's perspective, who is a rat right now and kind of second guessing himself.
He's a rat, but he's a rat who just killed Matthew Bevilacqua.
So not yet. At the end of this episode,
correct. You're right. He hasn't killed him yet.
He has that talk with Skip, where Skip talks to him later in this episode about treat Tony like you want to fuck him. Hesh was originally supposed to be played by Jerry Stiller. For Sopranos fans, George Costanza's father was almost Hesh, but he turned down the part because of timing and scheduling conflicts. So they gave it to Jerry Adler.
He was in King of Queens, I think, probably when this was on.
Yeah, so he couldn't do it, but there is an alternate timeline that has Jerry Stiller as Hesh on The Sopranos.
I'm glad they didn't, because I can't take Frank Costanza as.
Yeah, that's what it would be. And yes, as Richie pointed out in the live chat, joining us here, Carmela in that scene, before we get past it, asked Tony to get a vasectomy so he doesn't get his Gumar pregnant, because what would that do? And then they get a phone call after Carmela left to go sleep on the couch, and about how Christopher coded, and they come here and everyone joins together. Again, we've all been in this fucking position, and it sucks. It's the waiting room of hell, as Bobby Bacala, I'm blanking on his actual, Steve Siripo, called it in their podcast. Just to quote them, he said he refers to it as they're in the waiting room for hell right now. And this is where Carmela starts showing her hypocrisy of using the religion as a crutch, and Tony even calls her on it at some point in this episode. I don't know if it already happened, where she uses it when it's advantageous for her.
Yep.
And when it's advantageous,
he brings up the vasectomy as one of the reasons.
Oh,
like,
yes.
You're so.
Yeah, that's the scene with it that eventually becomes probably your favorite scene when he rags on AJ.
Yeah.
So and originally Artie Bucco was was in consideration to play Tony Soprano.
Right, he went out for that role, and then they gave him the one he wanted the least, which is like, oh, by the way, you could be the cook, you could be the chef.
Walking David says, Phil, you need to have me on to talk Sopranos with you. I've watched the series twice since we've last spoke. Awesome, David. On one of these upcoming episodes, Matt and I would love to have you on. And also, if you want, and I meant to say this for anybody, right now our voicemail line is open. If anyone wants to leave a voicemail, we will play it after the episode. Anything about this episode or anything about the Sopranos, questions or comments, and you can do that at 781-990-8509. Again, that's 781-990-8509. Again, that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We'll answer any of your Sopranos questions or comments. And the Walking David. Oh, we got the Walking David and Midori in the live chat together. This is like a crossover episode. And okay, I love the stereotyping with Hesh in this scene where he just knows everything about the doctors, and they're like, and then they're all like, Hesh is like, oh, if I thought anything, I'd get him out of this hospital. So this is where we start the humor element of this episode. Christopher is okay. We find out that Christopher's heart died. The doctor comes and reports this as Hesh quizzes him on on all this shit.
If he's intubated or not still. Yeah.
And Paulie's like, again, an amazing Paulie. Paulie kills it this episode. And he's one of those weird actors that I don't know. Like, it was just the perfect character at the perfect time for the perfect person. He's not a tremendously great actor, but he's a tremendously great character.
And I saw an interview with, I want to watch this.
Yeah, we got to watch this.
If anyone who doesn't know this, Christopher wakes up out of his coma, and the people he has to talk to is Paulie and then Tony, but primarily Paulie.
Yep. And yeah, we got to let this scene play. And did anyone say does anyone know this kid likes his chemistry set too much? So this starts a pattern that Christopher's always apologizing to Tony. Yep. Everyone's mad at you, Tony. I mean, everyone's mad at you, Christopher. So Christopher's telling Tony and Paulie right now that he had a near-death experience. So he died.
And the doctor had just told Hesh that he did medically die for a minute.
Yeah, he was dead.
So like,
science.
So it's not like they're going in and right. So it's not like they're going in and they're thinking that he was just dreaming. The doctor said he was actually dead for a minute.
Yeah, to quote Paulie later, science said he was dead.
Yeah.
to Judy Reyes from Scrubs, who pops up in this episode.
I know, one of your girls there.
Yeah, one of my girls, my Scrub girls. So Christopher's saying that he saw Mikey, and I love Paulie.
Mikey Palmisi and someone else that hated each other in real life.
Yeah, and Brendan Filoni.
Brendan, right? Mikey killed Brendan Filoni.
Yeah, those guys hate. And I love how Paulie, right from the beginning. Okay, we see who Tony and Paulie are right from the beginning of the scene. Tony doesn't believe in any of this shit, and he is like, he is just like, whatever, Christopher, you're drugged up. And Paulie is just immediately trying to poke holes in the stories. Like, those two guys aren't even friends.
Right.
Like, tell me what's going on. I love this line by Christopher. This thing isn't working.
And it's funny, their version of hell is an Irish bar where the Irish win every game of cards and every game of dice against all the Italians.
And yes, the actor who played Paulie Walnuts did have some connection, and that's why part of the reason why he had one thing in his contract, that his character could never be a rat.
Yeah, and I've heard interviews like he would, not with him, but other people talking about him, he'd go around and like be freaked out whenever someone new would be hired that he might be whacked at any point.
Yeah, he's a quirky guy.
Yeah, and Bobby Bacala and Christopher in their podcast were saying like, or actually I heard them say this I think they were on Joe Rogan, and said like, every one of the actors is very different behind the scenes. Everyone is so different from their character, and then, well, except for Paulie.
Except for
that's what
Paulie,
he's
yeah.
like. That's what he's actually like in real life.
Yeah, he's a quirky dude. And so then we get our first Melfi scene of the episode, and she's a big part of this episode as well. And this is the first episode that she really gives it back to Tony. And she mentions this in her therapy. Is this the first time we meet her therapist? Is this the first episode we meet Elliot?
That it's Phil. It's been 300, 900 something days. But
Yeah,
I believe it's certainly one of the earlier ones.
Yeah, it's one of the early.
We don't know in the beginning that she sees a therapist too. I know that. So this could be the first time.
I think it might be the first time we see Elliot. I can double check that.
And another thing Tony just told Carmela is that he's no longer cheating on her, and that's completely done and in the past. But
yeah, he lies so much to everybody, even to Melfi. He's honest with her to certain extents, and he feels like he feels like he always wants Melfi's respect. He always wants her to, he's like,
sometimes he wants more than her respect.
That's true. Yeah. He wants those legs. Oh, those legs.
One of those near-death experiences.
Yeah, one of those near-death experiences. He it's nothing. It's nothing. Now, at the end here, when he gets into this whole speech about who goes to hell, as she pushes him on this, do you think, is he convincing himself? What do you think Tony believes? Do you think Tony believes in hell?
I think, yeah, I think so. On some level, dude, they're all raised so Catholic. Italians, they're just raised that way, even if they're not. I think he also knows enough about himself that there's no praying in the world that's going to sort of save his soul, so he doesn't let himself get too worked up in it.
Right. So you think in this universe, Tony has already resigned the fact thou protests too much here in what he's saying here at the end.
He can't actually he can't run his life and still actually believe in a heaven or hell at the same time and actively believe in it. I'm sure deep down inside he believes it there, but he can't think about it anytime, or else he couldn't do what he needs to do to live and do what he does with his life.
Yeah, I think he's just resigned to the fact that he, even what he's saying right here, I think deep down I think part of the journey of Tony through the whole series is coming to grips with the fact that he accepts the fact he's a fucking awful person. And I think he's still at the point in that journey through, and I think that ends. I think the end of that journey is killing Christopher. I think
that's and James Gandolfini said that was the end of it for him too. He's like, when he did that, I didn't want it. When Tony did that, he's like, I'm done with Tony. I don't want any part of that anymore.
Yeah. Oh, and yes, Richie A. Chris, we get to that scene in a little bit where Paulie tries to convince Christopher that he wasn't in hell, he was in purgatory. I forgot about. Was it hot? Did they have goats?
Yeah, you were in purgatory.
Did they have goat horns?
What about them little nubs?
But this is an amazing point right here because anyone, again, who's ever been in therapy or dealt with a situation like this is interesting because Tony is getting intense as hell here. And you can just see the look in Melfi's eyes. She can't hold back having this fight because this fight is personal to her a little bit. We've seen who she's married to, maybe in further episodes, or her ex-husband is the opposite of Tony from what an Italian should be in this world. And she's had these arguments before and maybe even been a little bit closer to Tony's side of this argument.
You know what's interesting? If we just talk, you said that Christopher wrote this one. This is the first one he wrote.
Yep.
He also did that other episode I said was the worst one ever, which was the Columbus Day one.
Oh, yes. Yep.
But both of those are very much about Italian identities. That's what Tony's whole thing right here is, how the Italians were downtrodden. They were brought over here just to build shit for for the Rockefellers of the world.
Now, is this a rationalization though? Tony Sirico, actually, they were talking about this, as Richie A in the live chat says Tony Sirico was a gangster. They were talking about this and we're going to be referring to it a lot, the Talking Sopranos.
By the way, do we ever see a different Guma for Paulie, or is this it? This is the only time we see him with her, maybe?
It's the only time. I think we might see her with someone else. And by the way, is it just me, or does Tony Sirico have a weird rib cage? I don't know, when he was lying down and she's resting in the nook, it looks a little weird to me. I don't know. He has a weird... Is
that a real scar? You think it must be a real scar?
Yeah, it's that's probably that's probably you got
shanked. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to fuck. Still to this day, I would not fuck with Tony Sirico.
Nope, he's got the scariest look out of anyone. Oh, maybe Richie, but
yeah. But it's like they screw with you with Paulie though, because he says such ridiculous things. And Judy Reyes, if people don't know Judy Reyes, if you want to see more from her, she's been in a lot of things. I believe she pops up in Oz as well on a singular episode. She plays the wife of the guard that Miguel Alvarez blinds. But she's most well known in her career for Scrubs, the character of Carla. So if you haven't watched Scrubs, I recommend it. It's comedy, so it's going to be hit or miss for you, but she is excellent on that show. And she's a great actress.
Yeah, and it's weird though, because we never even hear about him having a girlfriend at any point before this, and we don't ever really hear about it again. So when you're first watching this, it's almost like, oh, is this just a one-night stand? But then her kids come into the room,
right?
And he's, oh, it's Uncle Paulie. I'll go put you back to bed. So like,
I have a dumb sort of colloquialism kind of question. Then why wouldn't she just be his girlfriend? Doesn't Gumar essentially? I know Gumar probably means girlfriend, but doesn't it sort of?
You're right. I guess it's not a side piece for him. It's his main piece.
But he refers to her as his Gumar.
Yeah.
It's weird. That's weird.
By the way, Phil and I are also probably bastardizing how it's supposed to be pronounced.
Oh, totally bastardized.
Gumar with an R on it, like
Gumar,
that reverse Boston thing.
Yeah,
we don't belong.
Yeah, we're Bostoning it. But
yeah.
But I believe he refers to her as the Gumar. Oh, hello, Oakley. We got Oakley in the live chat. First time, long time watcher. First time.
This is the most Paulie thing in the world. He started losing sleep about the 3 o'clock thing, to the point where he goes to the hospital, and Christopher, who is just shot, is passed out. And he goes and pretends he's moving something to wake him up, to shake him and wake him up.
He kicks the bed, and he starts. Now he's going to start picking apart his thing. Like, so were you in hell, really? Like, what's this 3 o'clock thing? And Oakley, thank you so much for checking it out. So glad you're able to check out a live stream. Hopefully, this will not be the last time you get to join us live. So, it means so much checking us out or checking out the stream.
Did they have them goat bumps?
Did they have the goat? I think we're synced up, Matt. Did they have goat bumps? Nope.
Yeah.
And I love how his mindset here is the whole is it hot? And that's like his deciding factor. It's never been disputed ever that hell is hot. And this whole thing that Paulie goes into afterwards, you went to purgatory. And this rationale about how many years he has to do. Do you think that, they don't say this later, but do you think that's what that priest tells him that we see at the end? Basically he tells him that's how much time you have to do in purgatory. Because Paulie seems like a guy that he needs a specific answer. He's like, I need to know the specific answer. Tell me what's going on.
When he talks to at the end of this episode.
Yeah. Do you think that? Do you think the priest? I think the priest is who told him this whole thing about you multiply it times
Probably.
50. You do this. I could do that standing on my head. In forever time. That's like a minute.
Right.
Oakley, it is amazing. Thank you for having Matt and I in your earpiece or your living room or your computer or your phone or whatever for a little while here today.
It would make sense, Phil, that this would be the first occurrence of this, only because Christopher could have decided to write her in. He could have said, hey, you know what? Maybe we should put her in. Like, a change in writer may cause like this sort of change.
Now, people that don't know this, the guy that plays this character is Peter Bogdanovich. I believe he is also he is a filmmaker, and he's well known. So this is sort of I wouldn't say a stunt casting kind of thing, but this is someone who's a fan of the show, fan of David Chase, that is kind of, just stepping in here, didn't really go through the casting process. Really awesome as Jennifer's. So their scenes are not as deep, but just as entertaining, and they do have a lot of depth to them as her and Tony's scenes. It's just her and Tony's scenes are so intense.
And he's so different from her in the sense that where you can tell when she talks to Tony at every point, she herself is Italian. She's grown up around guys that are like that. She's not totally uncomfortable hearing about Tony's world.
No. Even
if she wouldn't be part of it, she's sort of familiar with it. She has she knows enough about it where he is a complete outsider of that in the way that he talks to her about it. She knows him because he's a because he's a peer,
Yeah,
and it's totally foreign to him. Like that concept of mafia, like Italian American, is like so outside of his comfort zone.
Right, to him it's something he almost acts as us watching from the audience at times.
Right.
Like
he's an animal. He's nothing like me. Where to her,
exactly,
she's only a few probably people removed in her life that she's experienced. Where Tony could have, they could have been in the same circle at some point in their life.
exactly. He's more thinking. He's like one of those guys that watches The Godfather or something. And
Right.
Okay, so this is where we get Pussy meeting up with Skip. And
maybe the worst, maybe the only actor worse than Big Pussy is Skip.
Okay, at least Big Pussy has he's good at playing himself. Skip sounds like everything he says is a bad line read.
It's so awful.
I
It
agree.
really is. It's not just even the delivery, which is awful. The whole thing's awful, but like somehow the writing for him in particular is the worst.
And thank you for having me on. We got Christina L. First time watching. Hello, Christina L. Great to see you in the live motherfucking chat. Great to have Christina. He had some great films in this. Oh, Peter Bogdanovich. Yeah, he did. He had some great films in the 70s. An amazing filmmaker. For some reason, the chat in one place is updating. We're getting more chat, but the chat on the screen isn't updating. Let me shut that off and turn it back on.
I see Christina and Richie A in the bottom.
Okay, you do? Okay. So, what do you think here? You've watched this show up until this point. Does Tony know at this point? Does Pussy have a point here? Is Pussy leaking some truth here?
Well, you certainly know that by the end of the episode that he is. Or no, it's the next episode. I was watching an episode a couple later.
Yeah,
Tony
it's the next episode. At this point, but Tony,
he's too close with Pussy, and unfortunately, I haven't watched the few right up to this. I watched them a bunch afterwards, and everything that's been on my Facebook feed, but I think he doesn't believe that someone he's as close to as him could have possibly turned. And I think that's part of it, is the level of betrayal it would be for Pussy to do that to Tony. Tony isn't ready to come to terms with someone he knows that well doing that to him, I don't think.
Yeah.
When Jimmy did it, he's okay. Like when the whole thing with Jimmy already happened, right? I'm assuming, right? We watched that.
Yeah.
Where Jimmy ends up with the rat in his mouth.
Yep.
And that got Pussy off the hook in a certain way.
But yeah.
They think he's the caliber of person who would never do that.
And especially where they had the scare for him before, that they had that, there was that scare that maybe he was doing it before, the last season.
It was Kevin McAllister's dad told him.
Yeah,
that
Kevin
Pussy was
McAllister's
a rat.
dad. Yep.
Then Kevin McAllister's dad died. He committed suicide.
Yep.
And then he's like, "Oh no, it was a fat guy, a different guy." And so
he left his kid home alone. Then his kid died, so he jumped.
Yeah,
off
it was awful. And now
Joe Pesci killed his kid. It was bad.
So true.
You don't fuck with Joe Pesci. How that would really work. I'd love to see one of those edit cuts with it being like Joe Pesci from Goodfellas or Casino in the Home Alone house.
The one that shot Christopher in the foot in Goodfellas.
Yeah, Spider. Dance for me, Spider. And Oakley says if he doesn't flat out know, he strongly suspects in this episode. I think at the end of this episode, when Pussy doesn't immediately shoot, he does suspect something. Because there is a hesitation. There's a hiccup.
There's a hesitation, but at the moment, Pussy's saying, by him shooting him, it's almost like he knows, Pussy's willing to do that at that point.
Right.
That's how worried he is that Tony thinks he may be the rat, that he knows the only way to prove himself is to somehow do a huge favor for Tony that he couldn't possibly do for him if he was actually around.
So I don't want to go past this scene of Carmela, of seeing Carmela being slapped across the face with her own faith hair, where she has to be faced with the logic of her life.
Right.
Where she's like, I prayed for you, Christopher, to give you sight to see this thing, and then her prayers did come true, and Christopher saw a vision of hell. But Tony told her that he saw a vision of Jesus that hugged him and told him it wasn't his time. And Christopher's like, no, dude, I saw hell, or maybe it was purgatory.
Right.
I don't know.
Tony wanted her to feel good. He's like, no, I'm not going to heaven. I went to hell.
I'm not getting my dick snipped, and I'm not going to fucking hell. Shut up. And Carmela's face, and again, this is another one of those credits to how amazing of an actress Edie Falco is. She plays that so well in the scene and just finds another way to nag. She morphs her nagging about one thing to morph it. Then Christopher, you're gonna need to repent, Christopher. You're gonna need to repent. She says Christopher even more annoying than Adriana does. The way she says Christopher sometimes.
We actually know whose fucking nephew is Christopher. Is it Carmela's actual nephew?
But it's not. Tony explains in an episode. I think it's Carmela's younger, like second cousin. I think
and that's Tony. Therefore, by the transitive property, that's Tony's nephew.
That's Tony's nephew, yes. By the transitive property of, but he's Tony's nephew through mafia nephew purposes. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're married. Let me ask
you this: Could him and Meadow, like in theory, be together?
No.
Or is that
no, because there is some blood relation between Carmela and Christopher. I believe that Carmela is the niece of Dickie Moltisanti, I think. Which is
Dickie Moltisanti.
Dickie Moltisanti.
Christopher's dad.
Christopher's dad is Carmela's uncle, I believe, real uncle.
Then how are they so far apart in age?
I don't know. There's no internal
Catholics just keep having kids.
There's no internal logic. Okay, so this is the scene we were talking about earlier where Tony throws the religion back as we see AJ in the background getting a hefty piece of lasagna out of the pan. And Tony does what Tony does best. It's give him a moment. He's like Batman like that. He can make his plan and he's going to manipulate you. And he's trying to manipulate Carmela and her words and her beliefs and telling her, he says things like this. This all eventually blows up with that amazing fight that they have in season 4 in White Castle. Like White Caps.
White Castle. No, White Castle's better. We're going with White Castle.
We're going to White Castle. It's better. White Caps. It's a big explosion that they have. But like Tony gets his wins. Like when he always reminds her about, like, what do you say to him? Would you say to me in the hospital that I'm going to go to hell when I die? Right. But this scene right here, as bad as we see Tony be in other points in the series, I want to say what he just did there was one of the worst things he ever did.
Yes.
Like,
it's really fucked up to do that.
That's real. Like Tony does a lot of fucked up things, and we're not talking, and not even just the killing and stuff. I'm just talking about saying horrible things to people. Like what he does there, and then later in the episode when he brings him the pizza and stuff, it's really kind of like it's really abusive behavior. It's like you slap him around and then you give it's okay, eat the pizza. It's okay.
This I forget it. Over here is Paulie taking the.
Oh, Paulie.
Uncle Paulie put you to sleep.
I'm sorry. And to your point earlier, Paulie shows, this is the scene you were talking about, he shows real love for these kids.
And obviously for her then. Like he knows them in that way where Uncle Paulie is like always around the house.
Is she ever on again? I don't think so.
I don't think so. That's what's so weird about it.
She probably wasn't because of Scrubs. This was probably right before Scrubs hit, and she had just, like, if the timing.
When did Scrubs?
I'm looking this up. This episode was the year 2000, or The Sopranos was the year 2000. It's 2003. Scrubs started in. Oh, of course this shows me. Scrubs started in 2001. So.
You're right. This was 99, right? Isn't it? When did this start?
Sopranos started. The Sopranos started in 99. Yeah. So this season was shot in 2000. Or 2002 or something, or 2001. Yeah. And so, theoretically, she could have shot this before Scrubs was a big hit. And then she couldn't have come back, and then she could have not had the time after this to come back and be Paulie's Gumar again.
Well, we also actually don't know about anyone's Gumar except for Tony's, really, as like a regular ongoing thing. None of the other ones are sort of.
We kind of meet one of Christopher's later on. We see her a little bit more often, some brunette girl, I believe. That we see him hang out with a lot of couple of different situations. This is a weird scene. This kid's a another bad actor.
Yeah, but he comes in. And he knows at this point, the pussy's not the guy anymore because he doesn't come in looking to talk to pussy. He comes in looking to talk to
Siller Paulie.
Sorry,
that's okay. And this is a weird scene too, because this scene and one of the scenes where. Where
pussy's eating, but
where Paulie's about to have sex with Carla, with Judy Reyes. It's edited a little weird, And that's what I mean. Excellent actress that she can play interested in Paulie, because I really believe she cared about Paul. Like I really believed it. It's one thing to pretend. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. This is one of the weirdest scenes in the movie, though. The whole series.
Oh,
this
thing right here.
Because it's the one time where they actually sort of make an actual break with something that's supernatural and make it part of the show. It doesn't I mean, all the other stuff can be written off as dreams or near-death experiences, being some release of of hormones and stuff. This is the only time that it really gets like this.
And what I want to say for the last scene is that ends up only costing Pussy $20. The kid's like gives this important information that the family really wants. He's like, "Can I have $20? Fucking crankhead." Right. Shut the fuck up. And the second thing is Judy Reyes. Yeah, excellent actress to actually play that she wants Paulie. And to this scene, Matt, what you're talking about, they do it in a weird way. Like, I guess you're right. Like, we're supposed to believe that this guy's for real, right?
No, we're not, but he does almost too good of a job for it not to be real. Do you know what I mean? Because normally when you watch people, we've seen this, like, what was that guy that had the show on TV years ago? John.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, the friggin'.
He acted like this guy, John something or other, and he'd go around doing. If anyone knows in the chat, please let me know. He was the psychic that had a show and actually did a show just like this in large groups of people. You can find holes in what they're doing, but like
there's a wonderful.
This is too accurate here.
It's a different sort of thing, but there's a wonderful Steve Martin movie where he's a televangelist, like a touch you and heal you kind of person.
Yeah.
And you get to see a little bit behind the scenes in that movie. There's always like someone on a camera and there's like looking for you. They're asking you random questions, but this is a very funny scene though, the way it's shot and put together, and but Paulie kind of gives it away. Like there's at one point where he
does give it away right here. He says
he says the last name. He's surprised that the guy comes up with the name, but he says
he does say Sonny after that.
Yeah. Because he says Pagano, and then he's freaked out that the guy knows the name after the fact. You can view this in a way that Paulie kind of just set this guy up. Paulie.
Except the poison ivy thing.
The poison ivy thing, yeah, that's weird. That's when you're right.
Because that's him with why would he come up with poison ivy?
Right. That's the Mikey kill, right?
The Mikey kill. He's sitting there freaking out. This is fucking itching me. And then this is my favorite line of him ever. It's right here. So stupid.
Satanic black magic, sick shit.
And then the chair.
Oh my
fucking
god.
Quiz.
Just hurls it. Fucking Paulie. Oh my goodness. He that is the beginning.
Although he did the only other thing that sort of borders on almost supernatural is a Paulie thing at the end of the very last scene between Paulie and Tony. They're having a similar experience.
Is it about Christopher, the cat, and Christopher?
The cat, and they're outside, and Tony tries to write it off as patterns in the picture and stuff. And he's like, I moved the picture. The cat still looks at it.
Yeah.
And I believe that's the last scene ever with those two.
It's a similar scene as this scene, and I love this scene as Tony kind of shows his just honest, probably atheist personality when it comes to what he's doing, where he's just like, this is fucking bullshit. Do you listen to this fucking bullshit? You listen to what you believe. It's a scam. It's he's trying to get through to Paulie here. Like, Paulie, use your fucking brain here, dude. It's a fucking scam. If you ate red meat and you lived in India, you'd be going to hell. Like, it's all bullshit, Paulie. Yeah. It's like the thing I kept saying when I was in Hebrew school.
But bullshit, he says that he says that right there. He says, I was about to write the whole 3 o'clock thing off until the Sonny Pagano thing. He says until the guy came up with Sonny Pagano.
Now Oakley in the live chat says the information seems to be too specific to be guessed, but then we have to choose from supernatural explanation. Or did this guy somehow research Paulie?
Well, no, because he did say that. He goes, Charles. He goes, Charles, your name's Charles. He goes, he said he was your first. And he goes, Pagano? He goes, oh no, your name is Sonny. So he does, the psychic does come up with Charles, he was your first, and then the name Sonny.
And then the
poison ivy.
Poison ivy. So I think Oakley, we're supposed to, I think it's we're supposed to believe that there is some supernatural force right there, or that is real,
which I don't like at all that they do it, because I
No.
love the fact that the show never does it. But if you're going to do it in that situation with Paulie, if you're going to go that route.
Right.
You know?
And they did, and there's enough vagary that we're really digging that to see that the only possible solution to this is that they're saying supernatural. It can just be, realistically, it was probably just written and played for comedy, because David Chase is kind of that kind of guy and how he likes directing things.
Then you throw a chair and yell fucking queers.
Exactly. That was what that scene was for. That was probably written backwards from the point of Paulie and then Paulie goes to a
his whole reaction. Who you talking to up there?
Yeah. Do you know what would be funny if we had Paulie go to that ghost reader kind of guy, and like see what Paulie Walnuts would do.
Paulie who gets freaked out about everything and can't sleep and is holding an alarm clock waiting for 3 a.m.
So they probably wrote it that way, like reverse wrote it that way. So this is actually okay. You can almost rationalize the way Tony acted. Not really the behavior, even though I think it's, again, one of the worst things he ever did, because he explains it pretty damn well in this moment of what he was going through. If you think about the pressure of which he's under with the Christopher thing, and the fact that he's
got a lot going on right now, which is one of the reasons I also think he might not be super suspicious of Pussy, because there's really a lot other shit going on.
And he thinks of Christopher as much when we think about the thing that he's screaming to AJ about, my seed. You're my male heir, and like where Carmela is pressuring him to get snipped. They you can almost understand where the pressure came from. It's just you never really see him act that way towards AJ before or after that. In my imagination, like
no, he
not like that.
At the end, he does. When
AJ tries to fucking drown himself like a fucking moron.
No, the other time when he's like, Uncle Bobby's dead. Why do I have to? What do you mean we have to leave? I don't have to do this. And Tony finally.
Oh yeah, just tells him shut the fuck up.
Finally kicks it, like actually hits him for the first time, and I was like, God, you should have been doing that for the last 6.5 seasons.
Oh God.
I mean, it's a tough thing. I mean.
It's tough. But AJ at this point,
because he intentionally raised his kid to not be like him, to not want to be about that life, to not go into that. So he intentionally raises him to not be that way. But then I think he doesn't know how to relate to someone who's like,
I think he hates.
Soft as AJ.
And I think Tony Soprano is one of the most jealous characters we've ever had on any television screen ever. And he's jealous that his son lived the life to not have to do this. Yeah. And then at the same time, not only that, he's jealous of him for living a good life, and he hates him for not being the same as him. It's like
and is willing to sabotage and say that out loud.
Yeah.
And it's funny you should say that, because I recently was watching a much later episode, and it was one of the other most jealous, fucked up things I see Tony do, where it's not violent, it's just this weird, fucked up jealousy thing. And I never realized how much of what he did came from jealousy.
Oh, he's so fucking jealous. Is it the episode that Janice actually is happy for once?
Yes. I watched that recently and was like, that is so fucked up for him to do, because of all the times that she seems full of shit, which is most of the times, in that moment she genuinely appears to almost be at peace and to have found it. Like, she actually doesn't feel like she's faking it, and he can't handle that. He has to has to needle the shit out of her.
He's so pissed at her.
Hitting buttons that he knows he can hit, and the buttons that only a brother could hit. It's the same thing with him and when him and Bobby get in the fight, where those are only buttons that a brother can pick on someone else.
And Richie says Tony did slap AJ before. Okay, so maybe he did. It's more the verbal stuff that he said when he attacked, like just attacking him for basically he's attacking himself in that situation when he's yelling at AJ. When it comes down to it. So Pussy found the information. He called Tony up. He's chased him down. They got this kid.
And Pussy knows this is his chance to prove to Tony that he's not the rat. That he's like, I'm going to give you Bevilacqua. I'm going to go there with you.
They were talking a little bit about this in the Talking Sopranos podcast. Do you think Pussy's original plan was just to have Furio do it and then take credit? Because originally it was supposed to just be Pussy and Furio doing this. Tony wasn't going to
because I think that Furio would have.
I think Furio's still low enough down that he would have just done it and not said anything and let Pussy take credit. I don't know.
No, because I think that Tony would have pressured Furio about it and asked him really like,
oh, what did Pussy do? Like what that?
Yeah, or how did it happen, I guess.
But if we remember, again, if we look to the future of The Sopranos, this serves as a mistake for Tony to be here. I believe this ends up being some legal matter when we get towards the end with his court cases and stuff. I believe the Bevilacqua murder becomes a big thing that he was actually chose to be here where he didn't need to be. And as this kid pisses himself, we never... And this kid, if you don't know, most people probably would know, is also in another famous mob kind of movie called A Bronx Tale. He's the main star of that movie. Robert De Niro's in that, as well as
Robert De Niro's directorial debut was that movie.
Really, really good movie, and that kid does an excellent job in that role. A lot better than he is on this show. He does an okay job in this role. But I think he's much better in A Bronx Tale than he ever is.
And if anyone else doesn't know this, in real life, he did like 10 years in jail, got arrested for, I want to say manslaughter or attempted murder or something like that. Oh, you didn't know this?
No, I did not.
He actually did time like since this has happened after The Sopranos.
Shit. I did not know that.
He got heavily hooked on drugs. Him and a friend of his were out, and the friend ended up shooting and killing someone, and he ended up not going down for murder, but going down for like aggravated robbery or something like that, and did like 10 years. He got out in 2013.
Wow. Now, the visuals in this scene are so great. Like, Tony looks so evil in this scene, the way he lights his cigar, the way he looks. He relishes moments like this. Though you can see the joy in his eyes of what he's getting to do here. And Tony...
The thing that's amazing about this, though, is at this point, he's already told Richie a bunch of times, I don't talk business with people here. I don't do this. He's trying to keep himself away from this sort of stuff.
He's a fucking hypocrite. And there was
but this shows you how much Christopher means to him, that he wants us to be him. Because if this is anyone else, Tony sends Fiorio and him to do it, to keep his hands
100%
washed of it. 100%, because especially at this point, because he's telling everyone, he already bitched at Richie, garbage doesn't look at, the feds don't look at the garbage routes anymore. You can't sell coke on there.
And he definitely gave Pussy a look there.
There was
definitely some foreshadowing to Funhouse a couple of episodes.
Because he also knows that if Pussy doesn't shoot him, then Pussy could actually just sit there and say he witnessed Tony Soprano murder someone.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. And that is a great scene. We kind of talked over it, but great scene the way Tony does that. I love how the kid drinks fucking Fanta, and he's like, "You sure you want to fucking die a drink?"
Oh, it's Richie A. says first degree attempted burglary. Right. So I think his friend actually killed somebody. But he wasn't the one that pulled the trigger. So, right, first degree attempted burglary.
Jesus. So here we go into this Paulie scene where he's
Calogero, that was his name in Bronx Tale. Yeah.
C.
Right.
Please, C. You sound like you got your name's conjunctivitis or what?
Seriously.
Whenever one of those guys says something like that. I love Paulie in this scene where he's just like, I'm cutting you off. And he does cut this guy off, but we know from later in the series, he goes to another church. Isn't there another scene with him with another father later on, I believe?
Well, there's also a scene between him and a nun, which is kind of a big deal.
Right, that is a big deal. Maybe I'm confusing it, but I love this scene, and we get the close up of the Jesus with him where he's just scowling at it. It's just like,
for those, because we talked over this one as well, of course, which we're doing over the whole thing. He essentially goes in, and since he now is convinced that he's going to hell, he yells at the priest, "I've been giving you so much money. How the hell don't you have my back?" I was
supposed to have, and I love how he verbalizes it too. I was supposed to have immunity for this stuff.
And I think part of this, if Christopher's the one that wrote this, is a historical sort of downfall of the Catholic Church when Protestantism came out, is because you could at a certain time buy your way out of sins. That was like a way. That's why they became too corrupt, and they had like Protestant religion started, because that's like historically a thing you could do in Catholicism, was like pay off your sins.
I read this, and Tony, a fucking pig in shit right now, loving what he just did, loving every second of it. And I will go to the next step of this. This is written in the trivia section of IMDb. This isn't me noticing this. The bar that they're in right there is actually an Irish bar. It's subtle, but it's an Irish bar that they're in. So Tony's
that's pretty funny.
Tony's also saying "fuck you." It's called, where is it? It's the restaurant where Tony and Pussy eat at the episode's end is actually Duke's Stockyard Inn in New Jersey, an Irish bar. The venue seems to stand in as a silent implied defiance by Tony of the warning he heard earlier from Chris's.
If we didn't mention it, Christopher said that hell was them stuck in an Irish bar.
Irish bar for and always. On top of that, I love how he mentions losing every hand of cards you ever play. Imagine how horrible that would be.
So Phil, here, if you look in the chat, his friend killed a cop. They were both high. Yeah, he was strung out
Oh
on
my
heroin at the time.
goodness. Thank you, MQ. Holy fuck. So I don't know. I feel like ever since the season 1 thing, Tony's subtly testing him. So I think I see what Pussy sees, but I think at this point right here, Tony sort of, he's like, well, that look he just gave with his eyes was very much, something's up, but he just killed the guy, so he's got to be okay.
Right, and they're out here having a big stake, having just killed him.
Right, I think
the place that Pussy took him to for the first time 20 years before that.
I think he keeps talking himself out of it. I think he keeps...
like I said, he can believe Jimmy's a rat. He can't believe someone he's that close to could possibly be doing this to him. Yeah. It would be like if Paulie was a rat. Like that, the thought can't really cross his mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Pussy ends up being one of those. If we're going by again this story of Tony turning from a human into a golem, so to speak, the Pussy's the first brick in the wall. You know, like everything else is like, because Pussy's the first part of his heart in some ways. I think that gets dealt with a lot with the fish episode.
Well, it's a little before that. It's his mother and Junior, I think. Yeah,
you're right. You're right. The first one's his mother and Junior. Is his mother trying to kill him? Is his mother more than Junior? Because he does forgive Junior at a certain point in time. Like he realizes.
And Junior, he can rack it up to at the end of the day. It kind of is business. Even
Richie is right in the live chat. We don't find out about that until later. Tony and Pussy didn't know that there was a witness driving off, as Skip
not yet.
Skip tells us in the next episode where that Tony was seen with a rather rotund individual. You don't know who that rotund individual would be, Saul.
See, now the chat's not updating for me.
Oh, it isn't? YouTube is updated. Tonight is a night of technical difficulties.
Yes, but they're first. So honestly, considering we haven't done this, we're going
pretty good. We had the false start at the beginning, but I think for the most part we're doing good. And in this scene right here, Carmela says, "Fuck the." Tony says,
"Dude, I've never seen her this horny for Tony ever. She's really into it right now."
But this is that hypocrisy. She's horny for him because he killed the guy, right? Like this is her thank you for being the type of person that will kill the guy that shoots Christopher, right? Isn't that why she's doing this?
Maybe she's just horny.
Maybe this is the first time Christopher mentioned this, or they talked about this on the Sopranos podcast. This is the first time in the series we actually see the two of them have sex. And actually, one of the other episodes that Michael Imperioli wrote,
Just say Christopher, it's easier.
Christopher, Marco Polo, the one with the party where they have sex in the pool. There was another time that they had sex on screen. I guess Christopher just likes writing sex scenes between Tony and Carmela.
Gross.
But is she doing this because she's decided she might want to have another kid, and she's apologizing for like she is really like pushing it here.
She also got very turned on by the pizza.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. That conversation that he had with AJ.
At that moment, I think she's like, you know what? This guy.
He's a good father.
He genuinely does care, at least, that he did that and wants. And I believe he told her, "I want to spend more time with." Oh, that might be the next episode where he says, "I want to spend more time with AJ."
Aside from all of that sort of stuff, would you consider Tony besides from everything else he does, would you consider Tony a good father?
Better than a lot of people would be in that situation, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's not always perfect. I'd say he's probably a better father to Meadow than AJ.
Sure, but part of that is
Meadow's smarter.
Meadow's smarter and a better kid. Like he does try to spend a lot of time with AJ, and AJ's. It's the next episode where we realize that AJ is. He's sort of it might be later in this episode. Oh no, this episode's
this episode. AJ's infuriating. AJ's an infuriating.
Yes, but the next episode he goes, AJ, you want to go fishing? And he says, I'm going to the mall.
Let's play Mario Kart.
He's like, what do you mean you're going to the mall?
That's another jealousy thing where later in the episode he starts like being like, well, screw him. I asked him to hang out. And he said he'd rather go to the mall. There's some fucked up shit that goes on here. Wait.
And I like that they use kind of a Otis Redding deep cut to like do the whole show too.
the hell? What's going on? Okay. Oh, wait, forget it. Okay, sorry, I got a weird text message. And that is our episode of The Sopranos. Matt, we did it. We actually talked about the episode. Let's catch up in the chat here and talk.
I can't. My chat only goes to his friend killed a cop. They were both high. That's the last thing I have.
We have a couple more comments. We got Richie says Tony and Pussy didn't know that there was a witness driving off, and Oakley also said if I just refresh it, if I got to write an episode I was in, I'd write my character having sex with a supermodel. Yeah, you'd write Kathy 90s Kathy Ireland in your football movie and have her have a relationship with the Samoan center. Sometimes I think that dude wrote the script. He's like, oh, let me have the sexual relationship with Kathy Ireland instead of
Kathy Ireland. Way to date yourself, Phil.
I know. I
believe Kathy Ireland was on the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue in like 1989, maybe 1990.
But that's the thing is, I could not. Could you name a modern day supermodel?
It's not married to Tom Brady.
Yes, it's not. Is she still working? Is she still considered a supermodel?
Yeah, she still makes all the money.
It's true. Is she a supermodel or is she just a model?
No, she's a supermodel. Okay. She's the most
well-paid
model in
I
the
can
world.
name Giselle because we're from Boston and we can name Tom Brady. Can you name any other supermodel? But you can name like 5 of them.
No,
from the
but
90s.
there are people that can. It's just not me. I can't name them, but there are people that can.
Could you name some from the 90s? Because you could name like 5, right?
Oh, dude, remember Rachel Hunter, the one that ended up, was that her name? The redhead that ended up marrying Rod Stewart? I was a big Rachel. Dude, we were kids, and like the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issues was like a big deal when you were a kid. There wasn't the internet and Pornhub. Like that was a thing for you if you were like a 12-year-old boy. So yeah, you knew it.
Oakley's gonna really date myself and say Bo Derek. Bo Derek. Is Cindy Crawford still considered a supermodel?
No, I doubt it. But she was one from the 90s, sure.
She was one, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Kathy Ireland, Cindy Crawford, Elle McPherson.
Elle McPherson,
yeah.
big fan. Still looks great today. Christy Brinkley is huge. Married to Billy Joel in European Vacation. No, in the First Vacation.
First Vacation, and again in Vegas Vacation.
Right, and in Vegas Vacation.
Yep.
Mr. Papa. What the hell's his name? Papa Giorgio.
Mr. Papa Giorgio. Yep.
Nick Papa Giorgio. Yeah.
The bass player from that thing you do. That will be our next review. We'll do, or the dude from Empire Records as well. That's or he was also in that movie. The movie with Seth. It's a high school kids movie with Seth Green and a bunch of other people in it. It's
Seth Green.
Can't hardly wait. Can hardly wait.
No, I don't think I'm doing a podcast on that.
No, we're gonna do a retrospective on that guy's whole career, Matt. So okay.
Oh, okay.
So all in all, this was a very big, well-packed episode of The Sopranos. It's one of those episodes where so much in it happens that it's easy to forget all of the stuff that happens. I very much like this episode, and I think we're in. I think there's a lot of great Sopranos to come, but I think if we look at the whole the show as a whole, when you look back at it, I think season 2 is the best season. I don't know. I think a lot of people have different opinions. I think season 2 in some ways you have the height of The Sopranos discovering itself. So I think season 3 has some of the best episodes with Pine Barrens, but I think the overall storyline is affected by Nancy Marchand dying, so it kind of changed the story a little bit. So they had to change a lot of it and focus a little bit too much on Jackie Jr. And I think season 4 is a little bit more personal, based solely around Tony and Carmela.
And the addition of Ralphie is
good. I think Ralphie's awesome.
He's the least likable character in the entire show.
Oh, he's horrible, and some viciously horrible things happen with him. And then I think season 5 comes close for me next to season 2. I just don't.
Steve Buscemi, I think, is the worst casting in this entire show.
We'll get to I'm very much looking forward to talking about season 5 because I think. But then Feach Lamont is great casting, and I'd argue with you that he's great casting. I think
sure.
I think all the guys from New York really work. I think Phil Leotardo is an interesting character. I think he's way more interesting than Johnny Sack, and I think that whole situation to show you how
Johnny Sack's a better actor, though. I love Johnny Sack.
To show you how small the New Jersey faction is compared to an actual family of New York, I think is really interesting. And then I think season 6 is hit or miss. I really don't like season 6A with the Kevin Finnery stuff, and then I think season 6B is really good for the most part. All of season 6B is really good, but I think this period right now is I won't say best. I think is my favorite section of The Sopranos.
Because again, I think part of this has to go to what are we considering the best. If you look at there's certain scenes shot in the last few, the cinematography, like that part of this show gets better and better and better over time. The scenes with them, some of them even in season 6, the scene with him in Las Vegas with that girl when they take
when they trip, when tripping, it's perfect.
It's so perfectly done. The last scene with Paulie, I don't want to talk about it and ruin it right now. So that part of it does get better, and the characters become more and more fleshed out. And Tony becomes James Gandolfini becomes Tony more and more and more and more throughout the entire show. Where by the end of it, it's like
now
still working it out at this point. He's there, but there's still parts of it that have to come.
Oakley pops in the chat and says the only other kind of supernatural element I remember is that all the dream sequences in The Sopranos. This one stands out more than those for me. Do you know why I think? Because, and Matt, hold your thought. Because this one we don't actually see. The other ones we see. So it seems more supernatural because we don't actually get to view it. So it's better the thing you don't see, like not seeing the shark in Jaws till the end of the movie. What were you saying, Matt?
Well, I was going to say it's supernatural in the sense that it's not reality happening, but I don't think it's supernatural that Tony has those dreams. Like, yes, there's a lot of it, and even the Kevin Finnery thing in a lot of ways is supernatural in the sense that it's not reality being displayed, but the fact that those are still things that could happen to normal people.
Right.
We've all had weird dreams where you start off in your living room and then you're in your high school and you're like, you go through all that nonsense. That's what dreams feel like.
No, there's hyper reality. There's a big difference between supernatural and hyper reality. Hyper reality is that someone like Tony Stark could actually exist and build a suit like Iron Man. It's not real, but there's some science way down the road that you could be like, maybe this could happen somewhere.
Right.
Superman is supernatural. There is, just to set it up in superhero terms. Batman is, people are like, Batman could really, it's still hyper reality.
The Matrix could really exist at some point in the future.
How do you
not now, obviously.
How do you feel about the new that they're doing another Matrix movie?
Well, there was only actually one Matrix movie.
the other two.
It's kind of like the Rocky thing, where like I don't know what you have talking about it. Rocky 4, and then it went. There
was two other giant pieces of shit that happened.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I tell people because as I was a teacher for years, I would tell kids, listen, if you're ever going to watch The Matrix, watch the first one and just pretend that's the end, because the first one ends as if.
No, I mean, I know they probably had plans for that, but I think if you look at certain things, and I think you can view this as television shows too, when you have like perfect seasons of a show and then the show goes on, Lost, I'm talking about you, that some things you kind of should leave alone. I think The Matrix as a singular movie just on of itself, you could say is probably one of the most successful movies, setting out what it wanted to do and achieving that goal just within one singular movie, whether it's your kind of movie or not, whether you appreciate it or not. You can say, this movie achieves what it set out to do.
Crushed what it was trying to do from beginning to end.
The other two are bloated messes that seemed like they were trying hard to just not tell a story and over-intellectualize a little bit. And I think some would argue, to go to The Sopranos, some would argue that later Sopranos maybe gets like that with some of the Kevin Finnery stuff, that it gets a little bit too introspective and not. I think Joe Dirty Locks said that he tried to rewatch The Sopranos recently and he got to a certain point where he was like, it became too bloated and I got bored by it.
Well, and again, we talk about this all the time particularly about The Sopranos, is this is the first show that was like, they didn't have, this is the blueprint that everyone else could tweak afterwards. This is the blueprint. Everyone watched, everyone cared. The internet existed, so people debated. Like,
you could
this
say,
is the first show with that.
You could say, and then that's where it gets to be that it's hard to compare a band like, and I'm just going to use basic bands here, like a band like Queen or Led Zeppelin or all those bands with the Beatles, because you're like, the Beatles were one of the first rock bands to do it. Or it's hard to be like, that band's better than the Beatles or not better, because it's like, because the Beatles did it before. Are they the best? Did a band like, for Matt's sake, Fish or Pink Floyd?
Why do we have to go to Fish?
No, but just even in the sense of like being able to smoothly transition.
Standing on the shoulders of giants, like
right. But like the Beatles did it first in a sense before other people did it. So they may have messed up. They did songs and albums that didn't work, or as they were figuring it out, where other bands had the like. How much credit do you give for something being the first? I guess is the question to the point I'm trying to make.
Are there guitarists that are better than Jimi Hendrix? Absolutely. But do any of them exist without Jimi Hendrix? And the answer is no.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
they just.
And I would say
He's
that
the one
about
that
The
did
Sopranos
that.
and again we've had this argument before. Breaking Bad is more exciting when it comes to the end of the series and way it breaks down. But do you have Breaking Bad without The Sopranos? No, you just don't.
No.
You don't. And I think I've heard Vince Gilligan say that on the Better Call Saul or the Breaking Bad.
Vince Gilligan would have never had the opportunity to do it if Sopranos didn't show that, hey, this works.
And I will go beyond that. There's a series of creators. We wouldn't have this era of television because so many show authors, the guy who did 6 Feet Under, the guy that did Mad Men, all these people, and I read this book about this, they all got into television instead of movies because David Chase did that. David Chase initially, The Sopranos, a lot of people know this, some people don't. The Sopranos was initially a movie script that David Chase got convinced to turn it into television because he previously worked on a show. What was that show about Alaska in the snow? Northern Exposure.
Yep.
And he didn't have the greatest opinion of television. He thought of himself as he wanted to be the next Scorsese. He wanted to be Francis Ford Coppola. He didn't want to be another TV guy. But instead, The Sopranos, he decided it got turned into a television project. And because of that, he set the standard for people like Vince Gilligan that wanted to be movie makers that instead viewed television as an option to create something just as deep. Matt and I grew up in a time, and a lot of us did, with the 80s or in the 70s, late 70s, 80s, early 90s, where television was a big deal, but there was a big separation between television and movies. And TV,
and movie stars didn't slum it on TV shows.
No. And occasionally you get television stars that once or twice a year would do movies, like Tom Selleck or Ted Danson would like occasionally do a movie, and they did it together, and it was called Three Men and a Baby. But you know what I mean? They like occasionally.
But it wasn't the other way around. It wasn't
No.
these huge A-list actors that were going, but Jack Nicholson wasn't on television, and Robert De Niro wasn't on television, and those people weren't on TV. But now, because of The Sopranos, you have the first season of True Detective. You have Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson.
Now,
at this point
Oakley makes a good point though. If Edison hadn't invented the light bulb, someone else would have come along and done it. Someone would have, but that is kind of to. It's hard to play that game because someone would have come along and done something. Oz could have been that show. Oz predates The Sopranos. It just didn't get the mainstream connection that The Sopranos did.
And the other thing that's important about the time period when The Sopranos came out was the reason no show before this could have gotten to this. And I didn't watch it when it first came on, the first 4 or 5 seasons. I didn't jump in until season 5 where I was watching it live. Was it before that? In the 80s and the 70s, you just didn't have the internet. You didn't have the hype to build something up like this through, chat rooms, through people who were like, this was the first show where people were making websites dedicated to like wiki pages for the TV show. It was going deep into the characters. That it couldn't have really happened, I guess.
I would say it was a combination of this show, and then this show created the perfect opportunity for people can overlook it over time, but 24 and then Lost. It was kind of like those 3 shows that pushed television along in some way. I didn't really watch Oz. I didn't really watch what's the show in Baltimore? The Wire.
I didn't watch The Wire, but neither one of those shows had, while they're critically acclaimed, as was 6 Feet Under, it wasn't the sort of.
They didn't have the mainstream appeal that The Sopranos had.
Right. They weren't. There wasn't water cooler stuff at work where you expected everyone else to watch it.
The only other 2 HBO shows that had that, and one of them wasn't quote unquote water cooler discussion, and that's Sex and the City, was the one that wasn't.
Yeah.
And Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is the next one after The Sopranos that gained HBO that same kind of light. So
and there was Boardwalk Empire and.
No, I mean they had some great shows. I would argue that that HBO has more successes than failures in their shows.
Yeah, Curb Your Enthusiasm is one of the best like comedies of the last 25 years.
Yeah, or some people would say Veep is, or some people would say this is. Or
Veep is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's so
Rome. We both watched Rome and loved
Rome
Rome.
Was
just
great.
2
seasons. Yeah. I actually really like Vice Principals is another show on there that's very hilarious with especially if you like Danny McBride and Walter Goggins. So HBO has been nothing but success, but they've only had 2 real, what I would argue, complete tentpole shows that push the narrative of the entertainment industry.
Right.
And that's Game of Thrones and The Sopranos. The Sopranos, it's easy to overlook it now. The Americans is another good one. I've heard nothing but good things.
Listen, Phil's never watched it.
I've never watched it.
Okay, my wife and I are watching it for the second time right now. My wife, who's watched a lot more of the TV than I have, big shows like this, she claims it's her favorite show of all time, and I'm like right there with her. Americans is, but the problem with Americans is no one watched it, no one talked about it. It's probably my favorite show of all time, but not a big deal.
I didn't watch it either, but I've heard nothing but great things from the people that like it about The Leftovers as well. I heard The Leftovers is a very, very good show, especially the way it closes.
Yeah,
and I believe that's on HBO too. So many good stuff, and yeah, I was gonna do some sort of insult on you there and be like, yeah, and she's smarter than you too, or something like that. But it wasn't organic. It didn't really work.
We both love it. We would both say it's our favorite show, and no one has ever seen it. And the people who get into it, and I've had a few people watch it that didn't love it, but the depth of the characters in it is amazing. But again, that's a show that would have never gotten off the ground, and no one ever even watched it. But they knew there was enough of a niche market.
And that's something that HBO has been good at comparatively to something like Netflix right now that's just canceling shows willy-nilly. HBO definitely believed in shows that didn't get crazy ratings and let them go on and finish their storylines. They did it with The Wire.
Okay. Do you know one of the reasons for that is because what Netflix does is unless the show destroys it with ratings. I watched a great show on it. Oh, what the hell is it called? Of course, I'm not going to remember the name of the show, and I watched. It's one. If anyone knows the name of the show, it's the one where the guy's in Luxembourg and he goes and like the dad from that '70s show is in it. He plays a guy with. I don't know, he's in the show too, if anyone knows the name of it. But that was on Netflix. But what they do is they don't have to pay people a lot of money for the first 2 seasons. After they catch on, that's when they have to pay up. So they're just like, all right, fuck it, we'll cancel it while we're still getting, while these people are making nothing still. And then they cancel a bunch of them after 2 seasons.
Yeah, and they've did it with two of my favorite shows in the last recent years are gone before they have a chance to close. Glow, which I really love. Glow, and
is that the wrestling one? Like Glow, like what Glow was when you and I were kids. Glamorously,
it's actually really funny if you haven't watched it. And also the what's it called? With Mindhunters with
no idea what he's talking about.
Mindhunters is a show on Netflix. It's a show about serial killers. It's about the FBI defining the term serial killers, and it's very well done. It's a what's his name? Friggin' the guy who writes The West Wing and shit like that. I'm blanking on the guy's name.
The guy that wrote Sorkin? Is that
Sorkin? Yes, Aaron Sorkin wrote. It's his show, and Netflix did 2 seasons, and it's great. Game of Thrones just blew it in the end. That they did, but there's no. If we want to get into that, some could argue that The Sopranos blew it in the end too for a lot of people.
But people have learned to like it a lot more over time.
Oh, it's true. In the Game of Thrones ending, it's a completely different thing. Game of Thrones ending is more analogous to the How I Met Your Mother ending, where it's so bad that most people that were into the show, even in a passing, that weren't into the whole Song of Ice and Fire universe, have abandoned and will never watch the show again because they got disappointed by the ending. In the same way with How I Met Your Mother. The Sopranos ending was a little bit more of an Andy Kaufman kind of ending that people can appreciate in a satirical level of how he trolled people with that ending.
Yeah.
And like, I tend to think...
And again, Phil, all these other shows we talk about had a blueprint for what you could and could not do. Sopranos was like, well, there's never been a show this big that has to end. So what the fuck do we do? Like, how do you end this?
And I think he ended it like that because it
doesn't deserve to be a happy ending.
I think he had always hoped for some sort of reunion. some sort of
Right, which
movie. I think
unfortunately,
it didn't happen. It is happening, but not the way it should happen.
right.
I feel like what should have happened was eventually a movie that was the trial of Tony Soprano, which would be him with all the case. Because at the end of the series, it looked like the feds were finally going to have a case against him, with him in a court case, remembering something about his child, like having a memory thing going on, and having flashbacks mixed in with. But instead, we're going to get a movie that's all the flashbacks. Midori, that's another one that I wanted to mention when I was mentioning shows. Santa Clarita Diet, which is my favorite thing that Drew Barrymore has done in a million years. And that I'm so disappointed they canceled that series too before it logically ended. And Matt,
Did you ever watch Fleabag, Phil?
no, but that's another one I've heard nothing but great things about.
It's only 2 seasons. They're quick. It's it's pretty much perfect. That's the best show ever made. But you gotta, like, you and I are both chicks. That's why we'd get into it, because it's filthy though too.
Now, Matt, I don't want to. I know it's getting probably late for you here, so we should probably start to wrap things up for you. But hopefully this won't be another 917 days before we do this again, right? Or we thinking more like 14 days? We'll maybe try.
I already watched episode 10.
Oh,
so
you did? Oh, so
I've been watching a lot lately. I told you, I've been getting fired up for it. And the more I watch it, the more I start talking like it. It's so awful. I'm like, it's fucking COVID. I have nothing else to do, so I'm just.
Oh no, okay. So and now that we actually did this and know how physically easy it is to do, we can do it more often. Midori says Fleabag is fantastic.
It is, right? Midori, absolutely.
Netflix is a mess now with that girl's pervy show. Oh, with the cuties thing where they're handling a lot of like quick PR and trying to cancel and save money, and Netflix is a big mess right now. Do you think there's any chance at any point in time that there's enough other streaming services that Netflix could fail? Could Netflix eventually be the MySpace of streaming services?
No, but it's going to get more and more difficult. It could just. The problem is the original content that, like, the Peacock series has, and the original content that HBO has now that HBO has launched their thing, and the original content that Disney has, and they're all buying back their old shows. Like the Peacock bought back The Office. The Office was a huge selling point for was it on Netflix or was it on Hulu?
Hulu, I believe. No,
it was on Netflix. It was on
Netflix, and now it's on Hulu, I believe.
And it's going back to Peacock because they bought all their shows back.
Now, you just mentioned that in passing because I know we've had you on for several. Now your Star Wars takes seem to be a lot hotter than mine were at the time when I actually enjoyed stuff that you hated.
Oh my God, there's such.
So have you watched Mandalorian?
I did watch season 1 of Mandalorian.
Did you enjoy it?
Again, Phil, I enjoyed it because you and I grew up with Star Wars, so of course I still enjoyed
right. So
it.
you enjoyed it for the member berries, not necessarily for the quality of the program.
Some of the stuff is trash. Some of it's complete trash. It's cool. It's cooler. I like the slower pace. Okay, I think one of the biggest problems with all three of the Star Wars movies, the second one being, episode 8 being the worst movie I've ever seen in my life.
So Last Jedi was the worst movie you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, and I've watched Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead like 50 times.
The dishes are done. Dishes are done, dude.
That movie is so much worse than that.
See, I think I might hate the third one more than the second one. I have to think about it though.
No, episode 9's fine. I don't want to get into it. Anyways, the problem with all three of those movies is they literally try to cram a million different things into the movies, and The Mandalorian doesn't try to do that. It spaces it out a little bit between the episodes. There's not that breakneck, they're so cluttered, those movies. When you go back and watch something like Empire Strikes Back, a lot happens, but it's not cluttered.
Yeah, it's
the way that those movies
slow.
Are.
It's slowed down.
Movies are just so cluttered with nonsensical, action that doesn't even need. That's not what. Star Wars was never really about the action in that sense, as much as it was about the story, and the action was great. Just the effects that they had in it. It was never about that.
I hear what you're saying. Mandalorian actually feels like you're watching the Star Wars we grew up with. You feel like you're actually. It's not perfect. It has its problems, but when you're watching it, you actually feel like, oh, this is what Star Wars is.
There's a backstory. They're building stuff. Tell me anything you know about Poe. You don't know anything about Poe.
He's roguish, or
Yeah,
something.
cool story. He's roguish. Like you don't know anything about him, and yet
He
you
go,
get 3 movies to meet him, and he's one of the quote
worse
unquote main
yet,
characters. You don't know anything about
tell
him.
me about Finn. Or
Well,
tell
okay, exactly. But at least he's like something. You know, they never even explain it. How did Finn end up as a
Stormtrooper.
as a stormtrooper to begin with? But like, you can't tell me anything about him. You can tell me a lot about Princess Leia. You can tell me a lot about Luke Skywalker. You can tell me a lot about Han Solo. Because they take time to build those stories.
Yeah, the three of them, I agree, and that's part of the problem. It's in, and I don't want to talk about this too much. It's
How did we get into? How are we in Star Wars right
no,
now?
because
That's
I
your
want
fault.
because I
you
wanted
asked me about the Mandalorian.
because I was curious if you watched the Mandalorian and you were excited for
the
the new season.
Mandalorian's pretty weakly written in a lot of ways, and so that is the word. What the hell do they say? Because
It
that's
is
the
known.
word.
It is known. No, no, it's known.
The way.
I
It
have
is the
spoken.
way.
No, I've spoken.
There is I am spoken. Yeah, there's 2 lines that are just so stupid.
Oh my God, we got to end right now before our cats get eaten. We got Gordon Shumway, aka Alf, in the live motherfucking chat right now. Holy shit, we got Gordon. We got Alf. Speaking of weird,
Midori, I'm glad that worked for you. My explanation.
And I would say it's almost Richie that she has already murdered it. It's like the last rites going on, and that's what I'm afraid of season 2 of The Mandalorian, because Star Wars has gotten so much bad press in recent years that this is the first good press, so to speak, that they've gotten. So I'm afraid season 2 is just going to be so fan servicey, because it's going to be like, it's going to have the mouse hands a little bit, Kathleen Kennedy's hands a little bit more on it than season 1. I'm like, oh, everyone loves Baby Yoda. We got to put Baby Yoda in every scene, everywhere.
And they just got so lucky that it turned into like the biggest meme of 2019. It was like Baby Yoda was everything.
Now, Midori says, I completely agree with Matt. I couldn't articulate why I liked Mando compared to newer Star Wars stuff. Kathleen Kennedy is killing my stuff. I'm going to say that, Richie, I imagine that in the George Costanza.
This is the way. Thank you, Midori. That's what I said.
And Richie, I imagine Kathleen Kennedy is killing Star Wars in the Frank Costanza voice. Kathleen Kennedy is killing my Star Wars.
Right.
Or in some sort of Costanza-ism. So, okay, so Matt, so you want to do this again? We'll talk about off air, but sooner rather than later, right?
Yeah, I mean, now that we're into it, and I told you I've been obsessed with The Sopranos lately. So
cool.
I have nothing else to do. This works fine.
So theoretically,
time-wise, 7:30 is fine. 7's fine.
This 7:30, like on Wednesdays, are fine. Okay.
I stay up later than I used to stay up. So
okay.
It's okay.
So
not late, but
theoretically,
later.
2 weeks from tonight, we're going to do this again.
Or next week. We may do it 7 days from today.
What sucks more, new Star Wars or new Star Trek? I would say, as a Star Trek fan first, I would say new Star Trek, because I think at least Star Wars, they are trying to hit some of the themes that are important. They just do it in a very transitional, cheesy kind of way. Star Trek, they're so far off of what Star Trek actually is. It's almost like a different franchise altogether. I think Star Wars, it's like they're trying too hard. It's almost like they're like, oh, we need this, we need that, we need this. They're trying to stay too true to what Star Wars is. And Star Trek, it keeps trying to make Star Trek more fun by adding more explosions or more darkness or more swearing or more action, where Star Trek isn't that. Star Trek is about intellectual dilemmas and how you analyze it.
That's the same problem with Star Wars, is that they're the people who are making it are missing why the people actually care about it. I think that's the worst part of it.
So I think, Gordon, the answer is both. The answer is, I think the problem now is there's this mindset, instead of creating new franchises, it's all about recreating old franchises for a new generation. And I think that's the biggest problem, because you can't capture lightning in a bottle. And I think you need to worry about creating new franchises. You can't say, oh, The Sopranos is really good, but it's kind of dated. What they need to do is have a new Sopranos, where they cast some new actor as Tony Soprano so people can like this again.
I mean, with little kids, because Star Wars is a kid's thing. Star Trek obviously isn't, but like, would little kids right now be getting into Star Wars if their parents weren't into it? I mean, that's what Star Wars has going for it, is because my nephews love it. Why? Because my sister's husband is a huge Star Wars
So he
fan.
takes them to all the movies.
Hey, you guys want to see this? Oh, BB-8's cute. But like, would like an 8-year-old kid naturally be attracted to Star Wars now, the new ones? I have no idea. I don't think so.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about that because so much of the entertainment now that's being directed to kids is being directed at adults and kids. You have the new Ninja Turtles being recreated every 10 generations. You have the new DuckTales series on Disney that's appealing more to adults than kids. You have the new Animaniacs that's coming back, which again is appealing more to our generation than kids. And
with the hope that the kids get hooked on it too.
As well. Yeah, exactly. And that's what happened with DuckTales, that they kind of made it for both generations. And now kids and adults like it. You can watch it with your parents and stuff in the way that you can watch Willy Wonka. So yes. Yeah, although Better Call Saul did achieve that. Okay, so Matt, hopefully we'll be talking again sometime in the next 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks from tonight. Matt and I will be on again. I will keep you guys posted of that. I might be back later this weekend for a Mandalorian stream since the Mandalorian Season 2 premieres this week. And on Saturday evening, I will be doing a video game stream on the channel. I purchased some $10 horror video games for Switch, and I've got some extension cords, so I will be doing some video game stream for Saturday night Halloween stream since there's nothing else going on Halloween. Matt, it was really good catching up to you again, seeing you again.
Yeah, we unfortunately Phil and I, who have a lot of catching up to do with our lives outside of this, have talked nothing about it. So
nor do we desire to. We just desire to talk about Sopranos. I don't need to know about Matt's health or his situation.
My health issues as I'm like up in Vermont, like hiding from stuff. Yeah.
No. I'll just hear about you when you die. I'll just get I'll get the phone call from Jen one day and be like, "Oh, Matt's dead. I got to come up to fucking Vermont."
And it'll be one of those scenes, like we said, that everyone can relate to in the hospital.
Yeah, we'll all be sitting in the hospital waiting to see if it takes, if your death takes. You know, we're getting to that point, Matt, where it's about like when we can start getting the phone calls.
I know.
That's interesting. Okay, sorry to depress you guys here.
Sorry. On that note, check out Fleabag and The Americans.
On that note, let's go. And I do want to say one more huge thanks to Phyllis, who more than anything has kind of pushed us back into doing these. Phyllis, I hope you enjoyed this stream. We'll be back. And if anything, we're going to finish this series. I said this earlier. Matt and I set out to finish this Soprano series one way or another. Even if we're 90-year-old doing this from the nursing home, one way or another, we're going to do every single episode of The Sopranos. But I think if we can get on an every 2 weeks to a month schedule, we can get done with this sooner rather than later, and then we never have to talk.
If we can do 2 weeks, we'll never talk. So we should be able to do 2 seasons a year.
Right.
We could. So, all right. Let's finish. You know what? Let's do this. By the end of this calendar year, we have a month and a half. Let's make sure we're done with season 2.
We're definitely okay. Absolutely.
Season 2, I believe, is 13 episodes. So we have 4 more to do. We have 2 months.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get season 2 done by the end of the year, and then we'll have a whole year to do season 3. Is that what you're saying?
No, we're going to get 2 seasons done.
We're going to get. Oh wow, 2021 is going to be.
If we do every other week, we'll get through 2 seasons in 2021.
2021 is.
We could be rolling with COVID for like 3 years.
That's true, and we could be into Breaking Bad before we know it here.
You did Breaking Bad?
I did, but I did only the final episodes. The final few episodes.
Oh, so we could start with.
Yeah, we could after we're done with this, we can start Breaking Bad.
Can I tell you No, I'm not getting into a huge flower Breaking Bad. I'm not doing that right now.
Oh no, we'll do that during the series. Phil, any Walking Dead? Yes, Joe Dirty Locks and I will be reviewing officially. Joe doesn't know yet, but he will be. No, Joe and I will be talking about the final season of The Walking Dead. 100%. We're not going to not talk about the final season. We'll be talking about every episode Sundays right after the episodes air. Joe's been working a lot more lately, but one way or another, we'll get him on, even if it's voicemails or getting him to call out of work. Joe and I will be doing the final season of The Walking Dead. I'll be talking about The Mandalorian coming up soon, and a couple of other shows coming up. Matt and I, whenever it does come out, will be doing the new Sopranos movie that comes out. When I think that's on break right now from being filmed because of COVID stuff. But if it actually ever gets filmed and put out, Matt and I will be talking about it. But yes, Joe and I will be talking about The Walking Dead. I know it's been forever since we've had Joe on. I think it's been since February since Joe's been on the channel. But I know he wants to. He's just been really busy lately. So, Matt, I will talk to you in 2 weeks.
Yes, we will. Is that official? We're doing 2 weeks?
We'll make it official off the air,
Gotcha.
but yeah, we'll say a week. We'll say 2 weeks from tonight. We'll 7:30. We'll do it again.
All right.
As long as nothing else comes up. So, everyone in the live chat. Wait. Let me play the music. Here we go. If you haven't already and you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Share the channel with a friend. Pass it along like it's the plague or something like that. And more than ever, now on YouTube, it's very tough to get spread to more people when you say fuck every other word like I do. So please individually do that. And if you know someone that might like this kind of nonsense, please spread the word. So much thanks to all of you guys in the live motherfucking chat tonight that joined us. As I said, we'll try to get into a regular schedule here so you guys can expect when these are going to be. And as of right now, written in pencil, 2 weeks from tonight will be the next one of these, and Matt and I are going to work on one way or another getting done with season 2 by the end. Even if on December 31st we're not done, we're just going to do one podcast where we do like all 3.
And listen, and Phil's Jewish and I'm step Jewish. We don't celebrate Christmas. It may even be
yeah, we might be doing Christmas Eve. Yeah,
the 12 days of Sopranos. We
yeah,
make it a whole season.
That could be a lot of fun actually. But I will be back very soon, probably once, at least twice this weekend. Once with a video game stream, will probably be the next stream, or something on the first episode of The Mandalorian, and also some movie stuff coming up soon. Lots more stuff. Now I'm trying to get back into the rhythm of this. Everybody, thank you so much for your patience along the way, and thank you to our patrons that support us. If you want to do that, check it out. I just recently did a little apartment tour to see my new apartment. But everyone, thank you so much. You guys are fucking awesome. We'll talk to you guys next time. Later.